Welcome back to the channel. Today should hopefully illustrate why it's been taking me so long to swap in the custom rear subframe setup for my 2002 turbo project. So the subframe did show up, obviously. It was packaged pretty poorly and I'd waited almost a year and a half for it, so I was pretty disappointed with that. And then after I unpackaged it, I immediately noticed some things. We'll get into that in more detail later. At first I thought I could just roll with it and make it all work, but unfortunately that's not the case, and you're going to see why.
Everything seems to have made it okay except for, I don't know how on earth they managed to bend plate steel like this in shipping, but somehow they did, and that's pretty annoying. And I'm missing an axle nut. I don't know where that went, but since the guy that fabricated this for me didn't have the jig for the diff ear support that goes on the back and then gets welded to the rear of the 2002, I'm gonna have to take some measurements and try and figure out where exactly that needs to sit so that he can make me one. But yeah, there it is.
So I jack the car up and pull out all of the rear end components, trailing arms, the subframe, all of it. Then I start preparing all of the new stuff for installation. So I put the mounts on and press in the bushings for the trailing arms, and everything was going okay so far. And then this is where I ran into the first major problem. The subframe and the differential didn't even line up. It was drilled completely wrong. And I talked to the guy who fabricated it, and he said to just grind it a little bit, so I tried that. When that didn't work, he said to drill the holes bigger, and that was the last straw. This next segment explains everything.
So the first thing, and probably the biggest issue, is when I have these two bolts in place on the carrier, this is how far off the holes are. So that one will not thread, and then this one's even worse. This axle is not cut to the correct length. There is way too much play in it. It needs to be sitting flush against the inner bearing race on this side, and with the length that he cut this to, it won't work. Another issue was in shipping. The shipper actually dropped this one and I had to unbend it, but that's not his fault. Although the packaging was kind of haphazardly thrown together, it was not really sufficient. So I don't think that the shipper will refund anything because the packaging was pretty poorly done. Actually, this one could probably be considered the biggest issue overall. So there's these two little guys here, and the first thing that you will notice about them is they were cut with the CNC Plasma, obviously, but they were not done correctly. The torch head was started in a way that it's on the line that's in the computer or the CAD drawing, so it literally cuts into the design and creates a nasty tool mark on either side. Not to mention that these gouges are right along a bend radius. If this component experiences any kind of stress whatsoever, it's just going to crack and break. If you don't know what this is, I don't blame you, but it's actually supposed to be the mount for the shock, for the lower end of the shock. And it's supposed to go on the back side of where the brake caliper mounts on the trailing arm, and that is supposed to support the shock, this little piece. To give you an idea why this is so sketchy, look at the stock one. The stock one is twice the thickness. And the whole point of this subframe is that it's supposed to be, so much stronger and safer than stock. And you're going to tell me that this is acceptable? I don't know if he was trying to conserve material or what, but this is not how you cut things out with a CNC Plasma. Because you get these stupid marks from the torch head if you don't start it outside the design and then bring it in. This is just flat out unacceptable. So there's that issue. and it carries across the full design. You can see torch marks everywhere on pretty much every single piece that was cut from plate. There's just torch marks on everything. It's all really rough cut, which is fine. I'd be okay with that, but I don't like these gouges from the torch head on every single piece. I can't really pick on the welds because they're pretty much on par with mine in that they're functional, but they're not nice by any means. And then another huge problem I have with this thing is the mounts here for the branches of the trailing arm. They aren't square. They're not even close to square. Like, I'll show you this one with a ruler. So look, there's 3 inches there. It's almost a full 1/4 inch off. One on this side is about 1/8 of an inch. But if you just look at the overall effort that was put into this thing, it's not there, man. Like this, it's not gonna work. I gotta send it back, and that's all there is to it.
So I palletized it, which is more than he could be bothered to do, and sent it back to him and got my money back. I'm not going to give up. Now I'm working with 2002 Underground, who I probably should have started working with from the beginning. One way or another, I'm going to do this medium case swap. Stay tuned for more.